Hello, Blue Jays, and welcome to The Nest, stories about life after Manor College. I am your host, Kelly Pfeiffer, Vice President of Marketing Communications, and this is the best part of my day. My hope is that this podcast will encourage, inform, and inspire you, making you feel like at Manor College you belong here always. Before we get to today's guest, it's time for a segment of the show I like to call Did You Know? Did you know that Manor College is home to a Ukrainian heritage museum with rare artifacts, embroidery, and even Pazinki, Ukrainian Easter eggs? I figured I would talk about this because we are very close to the Easter holiday, and Pazinki or Pazinka is popular around this time of year. So Ukrainian Easter eggs is called Pazinki or Pazinka. They are very beautiful, but they are a little bit more than just that. They're actually steeped in tradition with intricate designs believed to ward off evil. We've done a few stories on our websites and a few videos about this before, but these are really, really unique artifacts that come from Ukraine. So to make the ancient art of Pazinki, you'll need a special stylus called a kitska, beeswax dyes, and a raw egg. We have a curator here. Her name is Christina Prokopovich, and she is wonderful at teaching others how to make Pazinka. So you apply wax in stages, and then you use that little stylus and you draw intricate designs, and each waxed area resists the dye. So when the egg is dipped, and then you repeat this process with different colors, you can build layers and patterns on top of the egg, and it can be so unique. So finally, the wax is kind of melted off to reveal your unique symbolic Pazinka. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of really steady hands, but the result is a really stunning piece of cultural heritage that you created yourself, which is pretty neat. So at our Ukrainian Heritage Museum, you can find over 200 of these amazing works of art. We have over 150 on display. Like I said, our curator, Christina Prokopovich, she will go to different schools, different cultural communities, and teach how to do Pazinka. She's taught here a bunch of times to our students. It is said that by creating Pazinka, we will be keeping a legendary monster chained to ward off that evil. So next time you see a Pazinka, remember its beauty and powerful story. I am now honored to welcome today's alumni guest. Today we have a fascinating guest who's taken a truly inspiring career journey from their roots in Elkins Park, attending Cheltenham High School. Our guest today spent a decade as a therapist before making a significant pivot in her career. Having earned her Paralegal Certificate in May of 2018, she is now a Litigation Lead Paralegal at the firm Grant Eisenhofer in Wilmington, Delaware, working on multiple mass torts. Please welcome me in joining Manor alumni from the class of 2018, Rachel Freedman. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi. Nice to meet you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us today and for coming on The Nest. We're so always happy to talk to alumni. And I'm particularly happy to hear your story. I think it's a unique one, but also one that I think a lot of students will probably find some connection with. So if you don't mind us starting off with, tell us, why did you choose Manor and how did you first hear about Manor?
So as you said, I was a therapist for 10 years. I worked with children with autism for the majority of that time, and I also was an individual therapist. After a while, I got pretty burnt out, and I was torn between accounting and paralegal. I had always been interested in the law. When most people my age, back in the 90s, were watching Dawson's Creek, I was watching Law and Order, LA Law, all those legal shows. I realize now it's not the same thing, but basically I was torn between going either accounting or law. I came to Manor College, I think it was right before the beginning of the January session of 2017. And the people there were just so welcoming. I'm like, you know what? Let me try Manor. Pretty much from the very beginning, I felt completely welcome. The professors were great. So it was an interesting experience because the day after I started paralegal school, we found out my dad had stage 4 cancer. And I remember sharing it with my class, and they're like, oh my God, why are you here? I'm like, honestly, to keep my sanity. And my professors were great. Mary Sims was great. She was a very supportive professor, advisor, everything. I had Rick Cataldi. He was amazing. I had a number of different professors. And what's great about the Manor Paralegal School was that they were all active lawyers. They were not, or paralegals. They were not just professors. They were actually in the field, which I really appreciated. Um, so, and for the first time, um, the people I met there were so welcoming, not just the professors, but also the people, like the individuals, classmates. They ranged from being right out of college to, like me, changing careers, which I could really appreciate. I felt for the first time I was accepted, unlike the other schools I had been to. I really found my niche there and just really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's
And
so good. That's so good to
yeah, so
hear.
and to this day, I actually still stay in touch with some of my classmates.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so neat how you like took a leap and were like, I'm getting burnt out, and not just in this job, but in this entire career. I need to make a switch. And what like bravery it takes to do that. I mean, that's a really, I think, scary thing for a lot of people. So major kudos to you for doing that. And I'm so glad that Manor could play a part in that journey for you. And I mean, I can't even imagine what an experience. Like, you start a new college, you're starting something kind of big and scary in your life, and then on top of that, your dad gets diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I mean, I'm so glad that you were in a place that was supportive and that was kind of that extended family around you, because it sounded like at that time in your life, you frankly need that. You need that support. And some of those professors were able to do that for you. I know Mary Sims, actually just yesterday we celebrated her retirement with a retirement party, and she's been working at Manor for 33 years. So certainly she has touched a lot of lives of a lot of students, and I'm so happy one of them was yours.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah.
Mary was awesome. Actually,
Yeah, any good
my
Mary stories, since we're
yes, I
celebrating
actually
her
have
this week?
an amazing Mary story.
Oh, let's
Actually,
hear it. Yeah.
so like I said, my dad had stage 4 cancer, and actually, my cat was diagnosed with cancer not too long after that.
Oh my gosh.
So this was like, I think it was like May of 2017. And I literally was planning to go to see Mary to pick out my next classes for the summer.
Mhm.
And that morning, I actually had to put my cat down because she had
Oh,
cancer.
yeah.
And my mom was with my dad in a doctor's appointment for him, and I dealt with it. I put my cat down and I came to Manor, and I just like bawled in her office probably for a good hour, and she was just so supportive. She gave me a hug. She's like, we're going to get through this. She was just so amazing. And actually, she's a Facebook friend of mine. Like, I can't, she's been amazing. She's been an amazing mentor, confidant, everything.
Oh, that is so great. We're gonna have to take that clip. Our producer Anthony might need to snatch that clip that you just said and share it on Instagram or something, because we've been sharing Mary stories all week now, and we have to add that to the collection. That is just unfortunate for your cat, but also a real testament to who she is and how she treats students. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
Um,
very welcome.
so it sounds like you came to Manor kind of at the right time in your life, where like you kind of need those supports around you. So you were at Manor for about 18 months, I would say, a year and a half,
Yeah,
right?
about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of did because I actually had a master's. I only needed to take the 10 classes.
Sure, sure.
So I think I did 3 in the fall. I mean, yeah, 3 in the fall. No, sorry. 3 in the spring, 2 in the summer, both with Mary, and then 3 in the fall, and then I did my internship.
That's great. That's great. So
Yeah.
how was it transitioning, like, from I'm a professional, I'm a therapist, to I'm now a college student? Like, what was that like for you? Because that could be kind of tricky for some.
You know, I love being a student. I love learning. And like I said, from my first day in paralegal school, I'm like, this is where I want to be. Um, my professors were amazing. This was like where I should have always been. When I was in college, I had some growing pains, and I kind of went towards the psychology field when I feel like I always was meant to be in the legal field. So it kind of felt like this is the right time for me. Not to mention, like I said, there were other people, even older than me, who were in the midst of a career change. So we really bonded over that. That time of like, okay, this insecurity, this stepping out of our comfort zone of our careers and really making that, like you said, that leap into a whole new career.
Yeah, that's great. I think having peers along with you who are like, "Oh yeah, I'm older too, or I'm even older than you are, and I'm right there with you." Like that makes you feel a little more reassured in what you're doing.
Definitely. And what was nice is like the classes, like I bonded with people who were right out of college. Like I said, bonded with people who were older than me. Um, and just really, like I said, like I've been in multiple educational experiences and programs. And for the first time, Manor, I was with my people. That's how I felt. I felt like I was with my people. I remember I was taking, it was like an electronics, it was like learning about the different programs for being a paralegal. And I remember there were like 3 or 4 of us who literally would stand outside after class. It was an evening class. And we would stand outside for like hours just talking about life, about class, about everything. And I remember like one person, like his girlfriend would be like, "Are you coming home?" Because like the class would end at like 8:39, and sometimes we didn't leave till 10:30, 11. We would literally stand in that in the parking lot and just chit chat all
Hmm.
night long.
Right, right. Well, when you find your people, it's hard to stop talking. You just feel so comfortable with them. That's so
Exactly.
cool to hear. So, kind of take us through. You graduate in 2018. You've been working as a paralegal for 7, almost 8 years now. Do you still feel like this is my thing? I should, and has it been that like sense of confidence and as you continue in your career?
You know, it's interesting. I actually I my first professor actually hired me part time right out of right out of graduation. At the time, my dad was still very sick, and I needed a very flexible experience. So he's like, "I will hire you part time." So I was part time paralegal doing disability. My actually my internship person was like, "You can stay on." That was an employment law, so I was literally working part time as an employment intern paralegal, part time as a disability paralegal, and I was also working part time at the part time job I had started when I started at
Wow.
Manor. So I was literally working 3 part time jobs
Wow.
just so I
That's a
could have the
lot.
flexibility of helping my mom out with my dad.
Sure, sure.
So I really got like dug into that, and that the disability paralegal job was it really. I realized like I was meant maybe at some point if I had changed careers long ago, nursing, doctoring, being a doctor. I don't know, because pretty much the majority of what my job is now is going through medical records and finding um, that needle in a haystack, that proof of injury, that proof of use. So
Yeah, can you actually take a step back and explain for us what working on mass torts means? I had to look that up myself in my show research. So if you could maybe share what that means, I think that's really interesting and really specific type of law you're working
sure.
on.
Actually, that was my first full time job was in mass tort. Basically, what we do is we sue bad drug companies. Um, the bottom line is a lot of pharmaceutical companies. Okay, let me take another step back. The pharmaceutical companies are basically who pay for the FDA. They're the ones who pay the FDA. So you can imagine there's some back and forth going on.
Right.
So basically what we do is when a drug has come out and we find later that there's some severe side effects that they didn't tell people, or they kind of lowballed the severity, we go after that. So when you've got like your regular like personal injury, medical malpractice, you've got maybe 50, 60, 70 clients at one time. In mass tort, like for instance, I probably have maybe about 1,000 clients or more at this point, in approximately 5 or 6 different mass torts. So for instance, we are the head law firm in the Gilead lawsuit, which is in California. That is an HIV drug. They are one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country and in the world. They came out with pharmaceutical drugs for people with HIV. And unfortunately, those drugs caused more injury and death than they led on to. So that we're doing Gilead. I'm sure you've heard of Johnson & Johnson and the talcum powder. We do that. Let me think. Roundup. I'm in charge of that one as a paralegal. And also I'm sure you've heard of the Camp Lejeune case. All those military personnel, their families, their friends who drank the water and now have 50, 60 years later are suffering severe side effects. So basically what mass tort is rather than, it's like a class action, but the difference, the way I talk about it, is because it's a health issue, every single person is taken differently. So let's say you have a class action for a bank that they committed fraud and everybody gets the same amount. It doesn't work that way in mass tort because everybody's health consequences are different. So for instance, you've got people who had cancer and passed away, they would be worth more money than somebody who survived and maybe only had like a fatty liver or something. So everything is taken into consideration in an individual case.
So, I mean, it's so much. My goodness, the volume of things that you need to know is insane. Not only the legal stuff, but you also need to know medical. I mean,
yes.
My goodness, Rachel, I don't know how you do it because this is how does one brain even think of all that? That's so just hard to wrap my head around it, frankly.
Well, honestly, that first, I would say like almost year working in the disability law really helped a lot because I literally spent hours on end going through medical records, trying to pinpoint the worst injuries to basically say, hey, Social Security Administration, this guy deserves disability because they have such and such injuries. Now it comes to basically proving, now with mass tort, rather than looking at one or two people, like I said, you're looking at thousands.
Yeah, sure. Wow. Well, incredible. And I'm so happy that there are people like you doing this type of work because it's certainly needed and hopefully just so appreciated by your thousands of clients. So kind of tying things back a little bit here, how can you see the value that your time at Manor brought to where you are in your career today?
You know, for one thing, like I said, like I had a lot of difficulty being accepted where I wasn't. I had a low self-esteem when I first came to Manor. Having been burnt out and having had all those experiences, I finally found my niche, found my self-esteem, found my confidence. And, you know, I went from going to a small firm in mass tort, changing a couple times, trying to find where I really belonged, to my husband finally saying, you can do this. Like when I started mass tort at a different firm, I was the only paralegal on 3 different mass tort cases. But I had maybe 300-400 cases. when it came time to finding a new job, my husband's like, you can do this. You can handle this. And I basically jumped out of my comfort zone and said, you know what? You're right, I can. And the great thing about Grant Eisenhofer was they really let me grow in that field. Like I went from being what's called a client paralegal, just basically doing the day to day, reaching out to clients, reaching out, going through medical records, to they're like, you know what, you can do this, you can do the litigation. And I grew in that field. Like I started as a client paralegal and now I'm a litigation lead in multiple. And also when I hear from my clients and my attorneys, you're doing a great job, I really appreciate you. That really, really helps. That I literally have clients who love to reach out to me and talk to me and just tell me what's going on. And that's actually, it's interesting because that's where my therapy experience really helps in the matter. Is that these clients that I have that I'm dealing with, that I talk to every day, they're going through it. They're very sick. They're going through trauma. They're going through crisis. And they feel comfortable enough to confide in me. They reach out to me. They're like, hey, I need to talk to you. I have reps who are representatives of clients who have deceased who call me and they cry to me. And I feel honored that they feel comfortable enough to cry to me, to talk to me, that they are like, I need to talk to you because this is what's going on.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think it's so cool to hear that, like, you're seeing how your experience as a therapist is helping you serve these people now, and that Manor gave you the confidence to take that leap. And now, with your husband cheering you on and your own kind of hopefully self-esteem, you're feeling confident that, like, yeah, I can do this. I can help people. And I think as you're talking and sharing about what you do and how you help people, and like, yes, it's a job. So obviously, like, you are making a living doing this, and that's so great. But also I think you are serving society in such a really special way. And like, I was just thinking about how our mission at Manor College, our mission statement, the last line in our mission says that Manor graduates are prepared to serve society effectively and compassionately. And I feel like you are just a walking, breathing, living example of that. So I'm so happy to hear it and see it and just hear your story. And I hope that anyone listening is feeling encouraged and inspired too, because I think, how can they not be? It's so cool to see. As we wrap up here, Rachel, do you have any advice for current Manor students who are kind of in student life and in college life right now, and you're kind of on the other end of that? And any advice or encouragement for them?
Yes, actually I do. When I was in college, I was so focused on the degree, on the grades, on everything. And I missed out on like the social life and finding myself. And it took me till I was 35, 36 to really find what I loved. Like, take your time, enjoy the social life, get involved in the activities. And you know what? If you don't know what you want to major in, that's okay. Like, explore the classes. I so wish when I was in undergrad that I had taken more electives, that I had taken more classes to really find myself. And the other thing is, like, you don't need to be focused on that. It's great to have wonderful grades, but in the long run, what's going to matter is your development as a human being, as a person, finding your passions, finding what you want to do for the rest of your life and focusing on that. Take your youth and take that time to explore yourself, to explore everything that life has to offer, because by the time you get to my age, you're just you're kind of you can get stuck in a rut. And I'm actually so glad that I had that burnout, that I chose to change careers at the time I did, because I think if I would have stayed as a therapist much longer, I don't know if I would have had that impetus to change careers. So, you know what? Manor students are mostly undergrads. They're 18, 19. Take your time. If you want to take 4, 5, 6 years to figure out what your major is, do it. There is no rush in this world. Take your time, find yourself, find your passion. And when you're ready to graduate and become an adult, do it, because adulting is not all it's cracked up to be.
Right. But I think just your sentiment of like, kind of enjoy your college years because they are fleeting, obviously, and like find your people, find your niche, find yourself is really important. College is not just about in a classroom and that's it, homework and the studies. It's definitely a holistic experience, and we certainly strive to be that here at Manor College, where students are getting holistically growing in themselves and not just in their studies. So, well said. Thank you so much, Rachel, for being with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I know our listeners will enjoy it as well. Thank you for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, listen and subscribe on Spotify or YouTube. Stay up to date with all new episodes by following Manor College on Instagram at Manor College. And that's a wrap on another episode of The Nest, stories about life after Manor College. Remember, Blue Jays, you belong here always.